actually failed with test number 4, performing a leukocyte differential, white blood cell differential. So we have our supplies here, we have our immersion oil, we have our stained blood smear that is appropriate, we have our calculator, and I'm just going to be using a phone for the cell counter. Just going to bring that up so you can see my cell counter there. And then I just have paper and a clipboard to write my counts down and everything. So we're going to start, I'm going to scan the slide first under the 10x just to make sure it looks okay and that it's going to be readable for our cell count today. So I'm just going to go to the count area and the feathered edge. Take my glasses off. All right, so I am going to scan this, focus. We're just going to be looking for any like huge holes or any large chunks of stain. All right, it all looks pretty good. All right, so I would say this is acceptable to use. So now we're just going to do our white blood cell estimate. So we're going to count 10 fields. I'm just going to write down those numbers, and then we're going to take the average of those 10 fields and multiply that by 2,000. So we're just going to go to our 40x power. I'm just going to put that over here so I can write these down. Okay, so starting 3, 4, 9, 7. We're going to be going in the Battleman's pattern. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One, 2, 6, 7. Two more. 7. 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and add these all together. 9 plus 7 plus 10 plus 4 plus 7 plus 3 plus 5 plus 4 plus 7 plus 3 equals that, divided by 10. And then we got 5.9, so we're gonna multiply that by 2,000. All right, so our white blood cell estimate is going to be 11,800. Just gonna write that down. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and start our count. So we're gonna turn this to the oil, and we're just gonna add our immersion oil. Right. Okay, I'm just gonna open up my cell counter. Okay. All right, so I have all my cells here. So we're gonna go ahead and start that. Segmented. just gonna focus this. I'm just gonna grab a Kim wipe just to clean off the top. I will be right back. Alright, so I'm just gonna clean off the oil ends. It just isn't focusing that well. Okay, try that again. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and start counting. Alright. And we're gonna count to 100 cells. So we are at 100. Just show you there. So you can kind of see we made it to 100. Alright, so now I'm just going to turn that off. Just turn that off. Just whip that. Okay, so now we are going to do our calculations. So I'm just going to write these down before they disappear. So I had 0 basophils. I had 4 eosinophils. I had 15 monocytes, 32 lymphocytes, 31 segmented neutrophils, and then I had 18 neutrophils. Before I do that, actually, let me do my platelet estimate really quick, and then we'll get that out of here. Alright, so I'm just going to go back to the oil. And I'm going to count that for 7 fields. And 1 platelet is roughly estimated to 15,000 platelets when on this, the oil lens. So I'm just going to write down how many. Five, 2 more fields. Six. Okay, so we're gonna add those together. So I'm gonna get the average of these. That divided by 7, and we're going to times that by 15,000. Right. So our platelet estimate is going to be 47,142. Okay. All right. So now we're done with the slide. I'm just going to take that off. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and do our calculations now then. Okay, all right, so we are going to get the percents. I did not see any abnormalities. I would have wrote those as I saw them for any of the red blood cells or any white blood cell abnormalities, but I did not see any, so we're just going to do that as 0. I'm going to get the percents for the cells, which is basophils were 0% because we didn't see any. We had 4 eosinophils, so that's going to be 4%. We had 18 neutrophils, which is going to be 18%, 15%, and 32%. Okay, so now we can get our absolute values of each one. So we're going to take the percents and times that by the white blood cell estimate that we got earlier, which is 11,800. So for the basophils, it's going to be 0 because again we didn't have any. So eosinophils are going to be 0.04 times 11,800, and that's 472. Neutrophils were 18%, so 0.18 times 11,800. It's going to be 2,124. The monocytes are going to be 0.15 since they were 15 times 11,800. That's going to be 1,770. Lymphocytes were 32%, so 0.32 times 11,800 is 3,776. Segmented neutrophils are 31, so 0.31 times 11,800 is 3,658. Okay, so our absolute values for each cell, so the basophils are 0, eosinophils are 472, neutrophils 2,124, monocytes were 1,770, lymphocytes were 3,776, segmented neutrophils were 3,658, and then again our platelet estimate's 47,142, and then our white blood cell estimate from the beginning was 11,800. Okay, so now we can go over the cells that we see and what's common in them. So we'll start with the neutrophils. So I have a picture here. You can kind of see we have canine, feline, bovine, equine, and then you can see the band neutrophil down at the bottom. So these are the most common type of white blood cell. So you get them with an inflammatory response, and that would be neutrophilia is an increase and neutropenia is a decrease in neutrophils. They're found in the bone marrow, and they're typically the first responders to any kind of inflammatory response. So they're the first cell there, which is usually why it's the most common type. And then we have our eosinophils, which are, or I'm sorry, we don't have our eosinophils. We have our basophils, which are similar to eosinophils. And you can see there's the types for all 4 different species. And these are present in small quantities, usually don't see a lot, which is what we saw today. We actually didn't have any basophils. And these are seen with allergic responses, parasitic infections in animals. So if they have intestinal parasites, sometimes their eosinophils or their basophils will be up, any kind of mange. So that's gonna make those go up in the allergic or any kind of parasitic infection in those animals. And then we have our eosinophils here, which you can see for all 4. And that is going to be, again, with a parasitic infection or allergic reaction. It's kind of the same as the basophil. They typically respond around the same time. There are usually none. So these, we had 4 today. So that could mean that this animal may have had an allergic reaction of some kind. It could have had really bad skin allergies. It could have had intestinal parasites. So usually if these are elevated, the doctors would recommend checking a fecal. These are usually less than 3% of the white blood cell count in a normal animal if there is an infection. So then we have our lymphocytes, which are pretty large and easy to spot. They've got a big purple nucleus and they're really big. These are the second most common white blood cells seen. There's T cell and B cell lymphocytes. There's 2 different kinds, and these guys control the immune response. Lymphocytosis is an increase in the lymphocytes, and lymphopenia is a decrease. You'll see lymphocytosis with a vaccine or immune response of some kind. So if they had a vaccine recently, the lymphocytes can be up. They can also increase from stress, so their cortisol levels will rise. And then we have our monocytes, which are there, and these can also be increased with a stress response along with inflammation in the body, and their job is to remove the dead cells within the bloodstream. Increase in monocytes could be a blood disorder, autoimmune, types of cancer, stuff like that. And a decrease could be a blood infection if they're on chemo, a bone marrow disorder, and stuff like that. So that pretty much wraps it up for our differentials. And that is it. Thank you.